A good Tuesday afternoon to you. Welcome on into lunch with Claibs and Joe. It's the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganash St. Louis Acura. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne and Claibs. I think we can get away from some Cardinal talk today, maybe a little bit later on in the show, but it's September. Football has started, college this past weekend, pros coming up this weekend. And you know what? It's exciting to have something to be excited about in the world of sports again.
Oh, I would agree. Obviously the baseball season hasn't gone well. Soccer season has been a pleasant surprise to many.
It's long though, man.
Yeah,
It's long.
I didn't know it was this long. I mean, and you would have thought by now I would have gone to a game. I have not been to a game yet.
They had a game middle of last week. Like the game just popped up out of nowhere. I don't know how to follow their schedule. There's a lot that we have to learn.
They have in-season tournaments. And I gotta be honest with you. I've been doing this for over 40 years, and I do not know. I've met the coach, and I met the general manager, or they call him the manager, whatever. I've met them. I don't know anybody else from that organization. Matt Seebeck, I know just a little bit, and I ran into him once. I've never heard from any of these people. So, it's not like I'm looking for a handout or anything. I just not something I'm in tune with. So hopefully they have a good season and I think they're pretty close to getting into the playoffs. So
I believe they're still top of the table, Claibs. That's what it's called. They're the top of the table.
I'm surprised they didn't have a glossary.
I'm sure there is one.
Seriously. I mean, for it to be a new sport, you would have thought they would have had a glossary for the commoners to be more in tune with the lingo, we don't sound like a bunch of idiots when we go to the game.
I've been to one game. I've been to one game this year, and I was in the supporters section for it, and I believe
that's the section we have to stand on.
Yeah, you stand the whole.
There's not a chance in hell I'm gonna sit and do that.
It's quick though. I mean,
I don't care.
But no, like I think there was something like you could look online, you could see what all the chants were supposed to be for the game too. So not like Rams rules, but with just so you knew what was going on with everybody else. But hey, college football week 1 is in the books. I know you talked about it last week on the show. I heard you talk about it with Howard on Huddle Up with Howard this past week about how rankings are just absolutely pointless the first week of the season. And I think that kind of proved to be true over the games we saw this weekend.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, it is who it is. And, I get it. The bettors have to have something to talk about. They have to spice up the line a little bit, things of that nature. I get it. But when it's all said and done, it's just not something that you really have to put a lot of stock in. And especially this year more than ever, because the portal is so real for so many schools that, even the teams, the coaches don't even know how good they're going to be because they don't even know who half the players are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it's fun. But, I'm not a believer in anybody until October because you play all these non-conference games that are meaningless. I mean, you look at how many teams scored 50-plus points against their opponent this past weekend. That kind of gives you an indication. Now, you have some other schools that are like, you know what? Yeah, we're Alabama. We'll play Texas. They had a home-and-home series. Those are the games that are more intriguing. But even in their case, they don't really know who they are. And I think the best example is over the weekend. I think everybody thought Clemson was going to go in and give Duke a lesson. And we saw that didn't work out. We saw some other schools that had a little trouble. Obviously, TCU. I'm sure Ohio State feels they're better than what they showed against Indiana. So when you have all those games in that manner, those are the ones that are cool. But when you go out and find somebody you hang 80 on, that tells me a couple of things. Well, first of all, they should have never been on the schedule. Secondly, how long did you leave the starters in? And thirdly, were you throwing in the fourth quarter?
Oklahoma made Arkansas State cry. That head coach was crying at the end of the game. They were losing by so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's so I don't get the point. I mean, you I don't know what you learned from that. And like in Missouri's case, when you're trying to figure out who your quarterback is, you've got 4 games, non-conference games. Why don't you let each one of them play 2 games? Don't let them play a half. Play 2 games from start to finish. That way you have a better idea. So when league play rolls around, you have a better idea. Both guys have some experience, and then you go from there. But they don't ask me those kind of questions.
So with this, talking about the Oklahoma Arkansas State game, it was 73-0, the end of that game. Butch Jones, the head coach of Arkansas State, was seen, damn near tears from losing by that much. But if you are a team like Oklahoma, if you're not sure what you have and you're just kind of throwing it all out there, you're just practicing against each other. Do you have? 73-0. It looks terrible, but if that's the first game you're playing and you have a set game plan going into it of, hey, we're going to do this in the first, this in the second, this in the third, this in the fourth, and you're just sticking to it and everything's working, do you lay off the gas a bit, or do you say, hey, okay, it's working, we know what we have?
Well, what I would have done if I realized my opponent was that inferior, I would have been playing other guys to get a look at them. I would have played, I would have started the game with my starters, let them play most of the first half, let them start the first series in the second half, and then play my guys that I need to get a look at, especially my linemen. What can they do? I probably throw the ball a little bit, because I want to run my offense. Yeah. But also, I don't want to empty the closet where everybody else sees what plays I'm good at or what plays that we think we're going to see the following week. I think you have to be real careful in those situations and not overexposing your offense, but you want your players to get some legitimate experience. Now, legitimate is a loose word when you beat somebody by 70 points, but when it's all said and done, you want to make sure that these guys get some reps. They practice as hard as the first teamers do. So you want to make sure they feel like they're confident enough to step in, because if you don't, let me put it this way. If I'm a guy on that roster that didn't play and my team beat somebody by 70, I'm already getting the portal papers out. Okay. Cause there's no way I'm staying around. If you can't play me then I shouldn't be on this team.
Yeah, Rammer was telling. So Rammer does the games for Lindenwood, their football team.
The voice of the Lindenwood Lions. Yes, they are the Lions, right?
Yes, they are. They have the Western Illinois Leathernecks coming up next Saturday, the 16th, up in Macomb. Probably a win for Lindenwood up there at that one. But anyway, they won their first game on Thursday. They beat Wisconsin Stephen Point 77-9.
Yeah, I saw
in their first game. And Rammer was saying that Wisconsin Stephen Point, first of all, they had white jerseys with yellow numbers. So
you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. They need to go back to a standard uniform code on where numbers should be and how they should be able to stand out from the uniform, because not just from a broadcasting standpoint, but from a TV standpoint, a fan standpoint, it's hard to follow some of these guys. They used to have the numbers on the shoulder pads, on the top of the shoulders. They call them TV numbers, because at the time, a lot of teams, the press box was so high up. That's the only way you could tell who players were, and they were good for watching guys on film for the next week. But these exotic colors and uniform schemes, it may be hip and it may be cute, but it's not good for viewing.
Yeah, he said, and then by the time it was such a blowout in the fourth quarter that basically if you were a fan of Wisconsin Stephen Point and you showed up to the game, like, you got in. And he it was a whole lot of tackle by that guy. Mm-hmm. Their quarterback drops back the pass and he throws it to the right.
Throws it to the quarterback. Yeah. You ever hear the story about Bob Costas tells a story about when he was doing minor league hockey, and he didn't know much about hockey. And there was a guy named Claude Ouimet, that's the one name he could remember, that he passed it. Claude Ouimet, great save by Claude Ouimet. He was all 3 stars in that particular night.
The big game from this past week, the one that had the most eyes in college football, the week 1 game between Colorado and TCU. TCU came in a 21.5 point favorite to this game. Colorado had 50 some new players on their team, so much turnover from Deion Sanders coming to Colorado and flipping the whole program upside down. And sure enough, Colorado comes up with, if you're going with Vegas, came up with the upset in the game in week 1, knocking off the ranked TCU Horned Frogs. and kind of putting Colorado football on the map.
Yeah, that was an impressive game. They won. There's no doubt about it. But I'm sure Coach Sanders would not like to see 40 points put on his defense every week. I think as good as they played, there's obviously some issues they need to fix as far as their line play is concerned on both sides. They're just a little underwhelmed as far as size is concerned. But you know what? It was great for the game. And it goes back to my original point. How can you rank somebody? TCU was in the national championship game last year, but they don't have all the players from last year. They had quite a few, but it's where the game is going. I mean, you mentioned Deion Sanders has, I believe, 56 new players, and I think it's a tribute to him to be able to get those guys that all come together in such a short period of time. Now, obviously, everybody's going to be more cautious of them for the future, but it's good for the game. But I go back to my point again. How can you rank anybody?
Yeah.
You shouldn't even think about a ranking until mid-October.
Oh yeah, that's when the actual rankings do come out with the Final Four. Yeah, with the bowl championship. They don't come out till then. This is all just AP coaches polls.
And they don't know. Listen. They don't know jack shit. Okay, I'm sorry. They have no idea because first of all, the portal and so many people have moved around. Secondly, coaches move around. So you really don't know. And the way practices are scheduled today, it's not like you can go watch a practice and say these guys are going to be good because they don't show you much in practice.
Yeah, Colorado plays Nebraska this week. Nebraska had a game last week against Minnesota. It was 13-10. That was
That's at Colorado too, right?
That the game, it should be at Colorado.
Yeah, that's going to be a scuffle. Matt Rule was a pretty good coach at Baylor. Didn't work well for him in the NFL. He's got some things he wants to prove in Nebraska. That's going to be a scuffle. That might be one you might want to pay attention to. I'm not saying either one of these teams is going to be in bowl championship conversation, but I think it's more because of the tradition of the schools, especially Nebraska, that it could be very interesting to see how that thing turns out. And I'm sure both coaches will have their teams fired up for that one.
And then outside of that, you had a few of the other surprises this week. Not so much from a, the score standpoint, but you had the big game on Sunday night, LSU and Florida State. Florida State wins that one 45-24, a 3-touchdown victory for the Seminoles. This after Brian Kelly comes out and says there's no way we're losing to Florida State. Then you get blown out by him. And then last night, Clemson gets knocked off by Duke. By another 21-point game, 28-7. Dabo Swinney gets upset in his first game of the season too.
Yeah, Brian Kelly. I'm not a big Brian Kelly fan. He had some anxiety issues at Cincinnati. He blew a stack at Notre Dame. He all of a sudden had a new accent once he got to LSU, and he's trying to be this hip cat. Okay. And I know a lot of people who don't like him, and maybe because he left Notre Dame, because I think he felt like he'd gone as far as he can go. But, when you start popping off about teams like that, I get it where you want to give your team confidence, but there's a lot of other ways to say we look forward to playing them. And, obviously our mission is to beat them. But when you say there's no way, and I'll tell you something, there's one guy who we're going to get on a huddle up with, how Carl Reed, former coach here in St. Louis, he said last year, man, Florida State might be all right. And now, granted, it's one game, but I think the way they handed it to LSU, which I think a lot of people were surprised in how well they played last year, I think that just says, this is going to be that kind of a year. And I don't think we're going to see a team run the table. I just don't see that happening. And you may have a 2-loss team that's in the bowl championship.
In the Final Four?
Yeah.
This last year, the Final Four, right?
Right. Next year we expanded.
They expanded it a little bit after this. Huddle Up with Howard each and every week here on Claibs Online. And you guys talking Mizzou football, NFL football this week. Big news out of Mizzou today for people that might have seen last week or 2 weeks ago. Dave Matter announcing that he was leaving the Post-Dispatch, said that there was something coming soon. Dave Matter announced today, or I should say Mizzou Athletics announced today, that Dave Matter is the new assistant athletic director for communications and storytelling at Mizzou. So all those years of covering Mizzou, now Dave Matter works for Mizzou in the athletics department. Congratulations to Dave on that new job.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier for him. I thought Dave Matter did as good of a job as anybody we've ever had cover the University of Missouri for all of its sports from the Post-Dispatch. Post has their work cut out for him because replacing him is going to be a real challenge, especially considering the Missouri athletics. They're all improving. You only talked about football and basketball. Well, we've seen the women's basketball program come around, the men's baseball, the women's softball. I mean, they really have excelled in all their sports. So you need to have a person that's able to cover all of them. And to be honest with you, I think that's more than a one-person beat right now. But congratulations to Dave. Again, I think he did as good of a job as we've ever seen. You'd have to go back to when Jim Thomas covered, Mizzou.
This is Lunch with Claibs and Joe, the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe. Look, if you head over to claibsonline.com, you can see my day as a linesman with the folks over at Ameren, Illinois from a few weeks ago. Video and pictures up now at claibsonline.com and recap of everything that happened on that beautiful day. Again, cloudy today. There's a chance of rain today. Miserable day. And it's also really hot out, too, the past few days, and it's going to get hot this week, too. Could not have been a nicer day when I had to go be a linesman. Yeah, not the kind of conditions that they have to go work in throughout. Hey, Claims, before we get to move on, since we're talking college sports, since we're in this, and next segment we'll get into the NFL a little bit. Last week at the Cardinal game, it was slew night at the ballpark. Yes. You guys had Travis Ford was out there. Chris May was out there. I think you talked to Travis Ford before the game. You guys did that, the post game, or the pregame. So I was out there. You guys were playing the Padres. Hudson's a big Padres fan out there, and we're sitting there during the game. And one of the in-game little entertainment things they did was a trivia, to where they pick a random person out of the crowd, and they have trivia. And Claibs, this up on the screen, as you see right now, one of the trivia questions was, who is a former Cardinal broadcaster and current voice of the St. Louis Billikens men's basketball team? It was Bob Ramsey or Bob Uecker. And the women that were playing the game thankfully got the question right.
Yeah, I got a kick out of that as well. It's amazing that they had Bob Rammer, who's been the voice of the Billikens for over 35 years. It'd have been nice if St. Louis, you would have invited him to be part of that night.
Right.
I didn't get that. But anyway, yeah, Rammer made the big board, and I'm glad the lady got it right. She said Uecker. I would have asked her to leave the ballpark.
I saw the name Bob Ramsey go up on the screen, and I thought, is that our Rammer?
Yeah, the one and only.
And I had to read the question. I'm like, it is. All right. So yeah, I sent it to. I took that picture and I sent it to him. His response was, "How about that shit?"
He probably has it on a T-shirt by now.
We'll find out with Daily Cards Live coming up later on this afternoon. Hey, let's take a quick break. Come back. We'll get into some NFL talk right here on the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura.
Let me get this straight. Gray Bar is a distributor?
Yep. For more than 150 years, we supported electrical and datacom projects all over the country.
So you can get me products wherever and whenever I need them?
Yep. Thanks to our expansive national logistics network.
For any industry?
Yep. From construction sites and industrial plants to schools, hospitals, and just about everything in between.
So you could say Gray Bar is much more than a distributor?
Yep, you could say that.
They really do it all.
Yep. When you need a hand powering, connecting, or maintaining your operation, join the thousands of professionals who rely on Gray Bar to help keep them up and running. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Back here, it's the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show, powered by Gray Bar and Ameren, Illinois. Also driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura. And Claibs, one of our newest sponsors, the Painting and Decorating Foundation, a company that you have had a chance to spend a lot of time with.
Yes, I have. And, one of the neat things about the Painting and Decorating Foundation, I mean, it's big right now for a lot of different reasons. You're starting to see more and more stories via the media with regard to options for young people. And careers other than college. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with college. It's a great way to learn, but The Painting and Decorating Council gives people an opportunity to truly apply their hands and their skill on careers that they can do for a long, long time. What they're doing, there's very few layoffs. There's steady work, and the pay has been extremely good. I mean, there are people who make six figures in this industry, but if you go through this program, you'll have all the things and certifications you'll need to not only enhance your career, but hopefully maybe develop a business down the road. And if you're thinking about something different, maybe college isn't for you, and especially for parents, when you're talking about with your kids, what's next, maybe it's not college. Maybe they ought to talk to the folks in the Painting and Decorating Council and find out how well it works, and you'll be amazed at what it costs. It's a commitment. It's just like going to college. You're going to be there, but when you walk out of there, you will have something in your hand that will be just as valuable as a diploma or a degree from anywhere else. But the fact is, this is something that you will have a true skill and a true art that a lot of people won't have. So you ought to check them out. You can go online and check them out, or you can give them a call and find out more about the Painting and Decorating Council of St. Louis.
Claibs, this week is week 1 of the NFL. Thursday night is when things kick off. It's the Chiefs playing host to the Lions. And when you hear that, when you hear the Chiefs for how dominant they have been the past, 5-7 years now in the NFL, and then you hear the name Lions, you just think, man, they're really just kind of throwing them out there and giving them an easy win. The Lions are going to be one of those teams this year that I think is going to surprise a lot of people. They came on at the end of last year, surprising a lot of people. Dan Campbell kind of, ran his mouth a little too much in the early parts of the season, and I think people didn't take him too seriously, but the play on the field ended up matching kind of the intensity that the coaching staff has. And even though I don't think it should be a problem for the Chiefs, I think the Lions are going to be a team that we're going to hear about in December and January.
Well, the Lions are going to be good defensively. I think offensively, they're still trying to figure some things out. Jamison Williams, a young man from St. Louis, is going to miss the season with an injury. He was also suspended. But I think when you look at them up and down, they are an improved team. But I think defensively, they're better on that side of the ball than they are offensively. But they're coming. As Coach Brian would say, they're coming. And this is a team, obviously, I wouldn't want to face at the beginning of the year because you had all winter to prepare for them, all winter and spring to prepare for them. So they'll have a wrinkle or two. So it'll be maybe more of an entertaining game than you think.
Now, we talked about in the first segment with college football needing till October. We saw the new preseason rollout for the NFL this past month and all of August. How long before you get a sense of these teams in the NFL?
I think the same, probably the second week of October, because remember, the practice is different than anything we've seen before. The exhibition games are just that. Most of the starters don't play with any regularity. You don't put yourself in football shape with regard to contact. Now, contact has been limited even in the games, but I just think that for you to really know what you have, it's going to take a while because you're going to have to deal with injuries. You're going to have to deal with some things that just don't pan out as far as players who you were projecting to be better. It won't work. You'll have a surprise or two. But my question is, how do you know how good you are when you don't practice and you don't play? And none of these teams really play a lot. So they're just kind of going on reputation and, some experience, but not enough. So I think second week of October is when you really know who's legit and who isn't because they've gone through enough things from now until then.
Based on what you have seen this offseason, who are your favorites?
Good question. I think Kansas City is a team you got to pay attention to. We always want to rip Dallas because they're Dallas. But when you look at them up front, they're pretty good. They made some changes with regard to their running back. They were okay with regard to their offense. Defensively, they're pretty good. They can get to the passer. So I like what they've done. I think the team that I'm going to be interested in watching is Jacksonville. Are they legitimate? They got in the playoffs and they had a little bit of a run. You look at Buffalo, is their window closing? When you look at the good teams, the challenge that they run into is the salary cap. Everybody wants to be paid and you can only pay so many guys. And so the question is, can we afford to let this guy go because we have a good draft choice that can step in? And so I think there's maybe 8 teams in the league that have a chance. And I think everybody else is just playing for next year. And You know, I mean, you look at the Chargers. I was going to call them San Diego Chargers. I still call them San Diego Chargers.
You were saying that, and I saw nothing wrong with it until you stopped yourself.
Yeah. You look at the Chargers. You know, what's Denver going to look like?
That's a big one for me too. Is Denver? That's the one. There's two teams that jump out at me this year, and Denver is one just because they bring Sean Payton back, and Russell Wilson was so bad in his first year in Denver last year. But now you get Sean Payton there, who we saw what Sean Payton and Drew Brees did together in New Orleans for so many years. Is Sean Payton able to bring that offense and kind of reignite Russell Wilson in Denver?
Good. You know, it's a good, valid point. But here's the question I have. Is Sean Payton going to block?
Right.
You know, is Sean Payton going to run the ball? I mean, I think that there's certain things that you expect out of a player and a team from a coaching standpoint. But if you don't have the talent, then it's hard to beat anybody. And I just don't know if Denver has enough legitimate talent beyond Russell Wilson. You know, Russell Wilson was on the run for a reason last year because he didn't have anybody get blocked. And I don't know who they went out and got this year that's going to make them that much better. So this may take a while. Yeah, I think Minnesota's a team you got to pay attention to. I think everybody's paying attention to Green Bay now that Aaron Rodgers has moved on. Yeah, but here's the other thing that kind of makes me scratch my head. Why is it that in the NFL, people still hold out? You don't see this in the NBA or Major League Baseball or any of the other sports. It's always football where guys have to hold out and in order to get their money. And normally, when they do sign, they're not as effective because they haven't played.
Yeah.
You know, and so you have some legitimate players this year, defensively especially, who decided, no, I'm going to get paid. And I don't blame them because, you know, the game is so limited as far as your shelf life is concerned. So I respect what they're doing. Other people will say, well, it's bad for the team. Well, you know what? And until some of those other guys start contributing to his salary, he can't worry about that. He's got to take care of himself because I have news for you. The game will move on from you sooner than you want it to.
The other team that I kind of look at, we haven't mentioned, neither one of us has mentioned them yet, are the Giants. That's one that I look at what Daniel Jones did last year. It was his fourth year in the NFL, and it finally seemed like he turned a corner as far as being a top tier quarterback, one of the top 8 quarterbacks.
You really think so?
I think what he did last year, I have it in front of me right now, 3,200 yards passing, 700 yards rushing. I think he finally learned how to move around and run in the NFL and make that effective while also having Barkley in the backfield too. And I think
the Jets are a more intriguing story without Aaron Rodgers. I think that Jet defense, man, listen, they got some studs on defense. If they get this offensive line thing straightened out, the Jets will be better than the Giants. Period.
There's a lot of egos in that Jets locker room. We've seen that happen before.
Really? Like who?
With everybody they brought in there, with Dalvin Cook now too, there's too many balls in there. I mean, there's too many top stars there. There's too many guys that are going to want the ball out there that Aaron Rodgers is going to have to feed game in and game out.
Okay, so what's wrong with that?
When's the last time we've seen that work?
Well, when you say a lot of egos, I mean, Dalvin Cook wanted to get paid, all right? Dalvin Cook wanted to be on a winning team. I don't have a problem with him. So Aaron Rodgers is different. We all know that. So who else is going to be a challenge as far as getting the ball? You got some decent receivers, not great, but decent. They're young. I don't see that. I think the Jets have, and I love their coach. I think he's got a really good staff. Their defense is going to be the difference maker if they keep everybody healthy. Because I'll tell you something, there's a handful of people that can block Quentin Williams one-on-one in the league. Sauce Gardner stepped in last year and showed everybody why he was a top round draft choice. And when I look at him, I think about he could be like, or Travis Hunter could be like him. Long, lanky, good speed, can break to the ball. They've got some other guys on that defense that have really started to come into their own. So I'm going to disagree with you on the ego issue. I think you have some guys that are hungry and want to play. Now, obviously, there's always a guy who wants the ball every play. I mean, you show me a guy that doesn't want the ball every play, I'll show you a guy I don't want on my team. But I think the Jets are going to be better than the Giants.
I don't have DirecTV, so I don't know this. Has Fox and DirecTV, have they?
No,
they still haven't gotten their dispute figured out yet?
No, and it's a shame. And I'm like this. I'm starting to look at another provider. I don't think, it's funny. Last week I saw Martin Kilcoyne, and for those who are not in St. Louis, he's local sports anchor at the local Fox affiliate. And it dawned on me I had not seen Martin in months because I don't watch Channel 2.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, I don't know why would I have a reason to watch it? And then all of a sudden, here's football season. I'm like, well, now here's a reason for me to watch it. But you know what? I'm gonna find something else to do. If they want to be difficult about this, and you know who ends up paying the price for this? The viewer, because I can guarantee you the price will go up for your direct TV or your charter or whatever you're viewing. And it's wrong. I mean, it's unfortunate because and this is one of the reasons why people are cutting the cable anyway. This very reason.
And then you have, on top of that, Disney's having a dispute with Charter right now, which means ESPN not part of Charter at the moment. So that not only affects all the college football you see on Saturday, it's also going to affect Monday Night Football, which there's a lot of weeks now that there's 2 games on Monday night. So it's there's a lot of issues with trying to watch sports right now with local cable providers.
Well, hey, let's go one step further. Oh, by the way, YouTube now has the games as well. They got the Sunday ticket for the most part.
Yeah.
So you have Amazon, YouTube, NBC, CBS, Fox, and ESPN all carrying football. So you better have a good fresh set of batteries in your remote to be able to keep track of everybody and make sure you have a schedule on what games you can actually get.
I have Hulu for my TV, local TV, and every year it's as simple as just logging onto the website.
So you like Hulu?
I love it. And for football season, all I have to do at some point this week is go into my account, click one button, and I get the Red Zone channel for $10 a month for the next 5 months.
So let me ask you something. You can get 5 months. You can get Fox on Hulu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've watched Friday Night SmackDown every single week these past few months without any issues of it. But the Red Zone channel, I mean, for $10, whatever Sunday ticket, what all that is, all I care about is I put it on at noon on Sundays, and from noon to 6:30, there is something on. There is a game going from one to the other, and it's $10 a month. And I think that's such a
because I just cut out Hulu, so I may have to resubscribe.
Yeah, I've used it now. I want to say for the last 2+ years. I think I've used Hulu TV.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And it had zero issues with any of that. Hey, speaking of, well, if I guess you don't have to watch it on TV, you could go out there to the Ascension Charity Classic this weekend, Claibs. It's finally here. I know the weather does look pretty good, and that's been the biggest concern of Nick Ragone as you and him talk each and every week on a walk in the fairway.
Yeah, it's here. The weather's going to be good. I guess we get a little rain either today or tomorrow, but for the weekend, it's going to be good. The Pro-Am start, I believe, tomorrow as well. It's just going to be a great week of golf. And I think that for people who haven't been out to this event, you'd be surprised at the accessibility that you'll have, not to mention the fact you're going to see some guys who really can golf their ball. I just think it's one of the great staples of our community now. This is the 3rd year, and the crowds continue to get bigger. It's really a social gathering. Think about this. Cardinals out of town. Missouri plays on Saturday, but you have Friday and Sunday. You can come to the match and check that out. And there's really not much else going on. I don't know what the soccer thing is because nobody's told me when they play. Did I tell you that? I've never heard from anybody from the St. Louis.
You've mentioned it a couple times. Yeah,
I just want to make sure. Okay. Anyway, point being, it's the only game in town as far as activity is concerned. So why not go out and check it out? The weather's going to be good. And I guarantee this, you'll recognize more names on this tour than you will on the PGA Tour, because these guys have all played for a number of years. They're champions at different levels. It should be a lot of fun. So get out and check it out. You'll be glad you did.
We will take a break, come back, and wrap things up on the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois Gray Bar, driven by these folks at Munganess St. Louis Acura.
Munganast St. Louis Acura has a great selection of new and certified pre-owned Acuras. Get 3.9% financing for up to 36 months on all new Acura models, or get $1,000 in loyalty incentives on the 2023 TLX and RDX, and $750 in loyalty incentives on the 2024 Integra. Get financing as low as 1.99% for up to 36 months on certified pre-owned TLX and MDX models. Munganast St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.
Final segment here. It's the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Gray Bar, and driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura. Claibs, you are not down in Atlanta, where the Cardinals start their series tonight. A three-city road trip for the Birds before they come back home. I guess if you're looking for a selling point to watch the Cardinals now at this final month of the season, the Braves are a really damn good ball club, and
Yes.
they are a fun team to watch with a lot of very fun storylines surrounding them.
Well, when you look at this road trip, this will be the most challenging road trip of the season for the Cardinals because all three of these teams are fighting for a playoff. Well, the Braves are in. It looks like Baltimore's in. Cincinnati is battling. But we're seeing some of the best young talent in the game between all three of these teams. And you better be careful here because you could go over on this road trip if you're not careful. The Braves they got a lot of punch, man. They developed a lot of players within their organization. They made a couple of trades along the way, and they can pitch. The same thing could be said for Baltimore. Baltimore is a team that's basically homegrown, but they can, again, pitch. And their offense is just good enough to make them dangerous. In Cincinnati, we've seen quite a bit over the last few years. We watched them grow. They decided to go for it, and they're in it. And we'll see how far they can go. They're on the outside looking in. So they all have something to play for. This is going to be a real big test for the Cardinals as far as how they can stay in these games.
Do they face? Yeah, tomorrow. It's on Wednesday. You get to see Spencer Strider pitch, and anytime he goes out there, it's been fun to watch him go. 245 strikeouts on the season. I'd have to look at how many more starts he has this month and what he's planning on making, but 300 might be within an earshot for him this year if he gets 5 more starts.
Yeah, he'd really have to be lights out. And here's the thing I think we have to be conscious of. I mean, that's a nice number to have, but you want to make sure he's on pace to be ready for postseason.
Right.
So if he has 5 starts, I think that might be maybe one too many. Let's say he has 4 at, let's say, 10 strikeouts a game. Then he's right in that 295 range or 285 range. That's going to be a lot. That's going to be a lot. So I think that I'd rather have Spencer Strider at 270 or 280 strikeouts ready to go for postseason more than trying to get to 300.
Yeah, 10 last 3 starts, 10 strikeouts against San Francisco, 9 strikeouts against San Francisco, and then on September 1st, struck out 9 against the Dodgers.
He'll probably get to 10 or 12 against us. I mean, he's that good, and we've had problems with him in the past. So, and the Cardinals aren't really a strikeout team, but when they do strike out, they strike out in bunches.
Yeah. And then Cardinals, they adjusted the rotation. Adam Wainwright's going to go on Thursday against the Braves, pitch for the last time in Atlanta, the team that drafted him 20-some years ago, and he'll go up against Max Fried in that game. I know they're doing it for sentimental reasons. I don't know if you want Adam Wainwright pitching against that Braves offense.
I agree wholeheartedly, Joe. He said he needed the rest. I get that. But, man, I don't know. I mean, that Atlanta bunch, man, I mean, they may give him something he'll never forget. I mean, he's pitched better, but not good enough to win. And I think we're at a point where I know you want to get him to 200. He may have to come in relief, okay? I just don't see Adam Wainwright going 5 innings and walking off the mound with a lead, especially when your bullpen has been so shaky. But, we'll see what happens. But I think he has his hands full facing the Braves coming up this week.
They have 7 guys right now that have 20 home runs or more on the season. Not Ozzy Albies. Orlando Arcia has 17 home runs.
Yeah,
on the year.
They ain't fooling around at all. They're no joke, man.
How do you right now? How do you handicap the MVP? Because MVP wise, you could say, I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr. is doing stuff that we've never seen before. 60 stolen bases, 30 home runs.
I think it's still Acuna. I think it's Acuna Jr. because he's been good from the beginning of the season. We've had some guys like Mookie Betts who's really warmed up and has helped carry his team. Matt Olson has been hitting home runs galore. But I think, as you mentioned, what Acuna Jr. is doing in other categories, along with probably being a Gold Glover as well, I think it's his year.
Yeah, that's between Betts, Freeman, Acuna, and Olson. We ever had 4 guys finish the top 4 be from 2 different teams?
I can't recall, and you hope that these guys don't split the vote and somebody else has a chance to become MVP. I can't think of who that would be.
I was going to say, I don't know who 5th would be on this list.
I don't know who that would be, but you know what? It's a very healthy, competitive race, and I wouldn't have a problem with any of them winning. I mean, I think they all have a very legitimate case.
How are you going to watch the postseason from the outside? I mean, first time that you're going into September, I mean, in 20 years that you're going into September without any kind of postseason on the horizon or even opportunity for a postseason with the Cardinals. So how does that go into your following of baseball?
I have no idea. I was thinking about it the other day. I'll follow guys that I know that I root for. I don't have a particular team that I'm rooting for. I respect the Braves and what they're doing, and the Dodgers for sure. And then those teams like Arizona and teams that are trying to get in as a wild card. I mean, I don't have a team I'm look forward to seeing lose. Okay. Because there are a lot of good players on a lot of good teams, but it is going to be different for me. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, right now Arizona and Cincinnati tied for that 3rd wild card spot. The Marlins a half game back of Arizona, the Giants a full game back of Arizona. So 4 weeks left in the season, and you still have a lot of teams that still have postseason hopes.
So, you just made an interesting point. On each one of those teams, there's somebody that is one of my boys. Bader's in Cincinnati, Phams in Phoenix, John Jay and Skip Schumacher in Miami, Paul DeYoung is in San Francisco. I mean, so there's all guys I root for. Because they were good Cardinals and they were good people, and that's the other thing. They're good people. So I'm gonna sit back and just enjoy it. I think the American League is even more competitive when you look at that wild card situation over there. Man, listen, Major League Baseball could not ask for a better season with regard to the races that are taking place and some of the things that individuals are doing. It's just been an incredible run. The unfortunate thing is the Cardinals aren't part of it this year. You certainly hope they get back into the swing of things next year. But, man, this has been a terrific year for baseball fans. And the attendance shows. I mean, the attendance is up across the board.
With the way the waivers were handled this year, the end of the month going in with the playoff rosters being set by September 1st, as opposed to the way it used to go with some of these late season trades, how do you like this compared to the way it used to be done?
Well, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out on whether it's been good or bad. You like to see the activity and you like to see teams go for it. But the way they've done it this year is just a little different. I'm not sure if I have a definitive opinion about it yet. I just didn't see as much activity as I like to see, but who knows? I tell you what, another thing we haven't, that came into play. We didn't expand the rosters on Labor Day to 5 and 8 and 10 guys on the team. I mean, you had your 2 out call-ups and that was it.
Yeah. Cardinals did make a lot of moves. We'll go over them in Daily Cards Live, but quickly, the Cardinals this past weekend, as of, I guess, last night, today, Matthew Liberatore has been activated from the injured list. Jojo Romero has gone on the injured list. They're saying left knee patellar tendonitis. Jose Fermin recalled from Memphis, and Taylor Motter was designated for assignment. So all of those moves happened before tonight's Cardinal game. The Cardinals were not in action on Labor Day. Holiday, kids off of school, and Major League Baseball did not schedule them.
Listen, we weren't on the schedule for Memorial Day.
I know.
So I don't get what Major League Baseball is doing with this. It's one of the few times you can get kids to the ballpark, and that's what this game is geared for, trying to bring young fans out, and you don't have a game for them. I just think it's criminal. But, again, they didn't ask me my opinions, but I'm going to give it anyway.
Down the stretch, you and Bob Nightingale will talk plenty of baseball with Good Nightingale each and every week. Brought to you by the folks down at Fast Eddie's.
Fast Eddie Bon Air over in Alton, Illinois. The coldest beer, the peel and eat shrimp, the Fast Eddie burgers, live entertainment every night. It is just truly a hangout place. And if you haven't been there and had a chance to sample a true tradition, you're missing out. This is a fun place to go. Eddie and his staff are there. They're courteous. They've been there forever. So it's a fun place to be. If you haven't had a chance to go over, maybe you take in a football game. Well, I can tell you this. I bet they have Channel 2. But they have Fox over there. So it's a fun place to go, whether it's college football or the NFL, you name it, or just maybe a Friday night date night. It's a fun place to go. Fast Eddie Bon Air, Alton, Illinois, at the foot of the bridge. You can't miss it.
He is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. Hey, also later this week on Weekend Joe, we'll have our second week of football picks. Maybe Claibs will actually make his picks this week for the football picks.
Yeah, I did that in protest, man, because I just felt like this weekend's games were just BS. I'll be ready this week.
The beauty of it's a point system this year, so you can catch up on the points as the year goes on. For the season with our picks all year long that you'll be able to hear throughout many of our shows. He is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. We are powered by Ameren, Illinois, and Gray Bar, along with being driven by Munganass St. Louis Acura each and every week here on the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com.
The Legends of Golf return to St. Louis in 2023. You won't want to miss one of the strongest fields in golf. Ernie Els, Steve Stricker, Bernhard Langer, John Daly, and many more when they compete for the 2023 Ascension Charity Classic title, September 5th through the 10th at historic Norwood Hills Country Club. All proceeds benefit area charities. Together, we were able to donate over $1 million to those most in need last year. Visit AscensionCharityClassic.com.